Good evening and welcome to A1 TV. I'm Mark Stone, your host, and Stoney's piece tonight. We're going to go down to the world of basketball. We're going to go to the world of NBL basketball, but also it's the business aspect of this next guest, and we'll get right into it now. I want to introduce Mark Nash. Now, Mark Nash is a Hobart man, or he's born in Launceston actually, and now residing in Hobart. And Mark's come up with an amazing concept in and around his basketball. He played for three clubs: Hobart Devils, Brisbane Bullets, and the Adelaide 36ers way back in the NBL. And Mark, you know what's really interesting? I looked at your Wikipedia, which is a couple of things may not be right, but it said you played 300 NBL games. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mark, and firstly, great to be here. I think it was around the 319 games or thereabouts. I haven't gone through and added them up, but that number sort of pops up a little bit. So I had 13 years in the NBL, was absolutely a great stage of life, sort of straight out of high school, and played for the hometown team here in Hobart, 3 years in Brisbane, and then 7 years over in Adelaide, and the opportunity to win a national championship in way back in 2002. So fantastic experiences, and basketball has been really good to me.
Yeah, it says in your profile 6'6" and a power forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, 6'6" is. I'm probably a power forward these days, Mark. I'm about 10 kilos over my playing weight, but look, I was always generally undersized in my position, and I had some opportunities in teams where the three power forwards were either injured or unavailable at various times in my career, and quite often would slide into that position. So I played that undersized and played against some pretty big bruisers back in the day, but I tried to sort of more be on the perimeter rather than a traditional big guy in basketball back to the basket. So sort of had to adapt and adjust my game, but I had some great experiences and played with some real legends of Australian basketball and against them.
Now, we'll park that right there because a couple of weeks ago I was in Hobart. You and I go back. I used to work at the Australian Drug Foundation, and so did you, and we crossed paths. You were in fact my boss, but I was in Hobart a few weeks ago and actually had a chance to catch up with you. Now, I'd been doing a bit of research on what had been happening in the Mark Nash life, and these people watching the show, this is what's going on with Nashy. Nashy has just got involved in a thing called Swisherr Hoops Academy. Now, I'd like you to tell the listeners or the viewers, Mark, about what Swisherr Hoops Academy is, because there's been an amazing and very good announcement today.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting journey, Mark. And as I mentioned earlier, basketball has been really good for me, spending that time as a professional athlete in the NBL. And then I moved back to Hobart to continue playing with a team called the Hobart Chargers, which is in that next level down. So say for footy fans, for example, it's sort of like an equivalent level of VFL. Two teams in Tasmania, but the Bendigos, Ballarats, Geelong, Nunawading, all the big metro and regional Victorian clubs. So I played another 8 or so seasons there, and then sort of got into the real world. But during last year, COVID changed a lot of our lives, and myself and my business partners, David Bartlett, who's actually the 43rd Premier of Tasmania, a real legend in Tasmania and very savvy in the IT space, and Anthony Stewart, who also moved back to Tasmania at the same time as me, who played about 500 NBL games. We're all now, dads, and our boys and girls are playing basketball, and there was this problem of just not being able to get enough court space to get practice reps up, and Hobart in the middle of winter is pretty rough trying to shoot in the backyard. So our first project was actually to convert a squash court, a disused squash court, into a basketball shooting space. So we did that. We mounted a basketball hoop up on the wall. We marked out the FIBA lines, like free throw line, 3-point line, and brought in a shooting machine. And we went for like a Dr. Dish branded machine, which essentially that machine does the rebounding work for you. So we had a squash court all decked out with our Swisherr Hoops Academy branding. And it just was an absolute success from day one. And we actually then later in 2020 opened a second one up. But a big project that we're working on is actually a partnership with the University of Tasmania to really create fantastic opportunities for young Tasmanians in the basketball space, but also as dual career people with education as well. So very exciting, and it's grown really quickly.
Mark, just take you back a bit, and as I said in the discussion I had with you a couple of weeks ago about why squash courts, the idea of having a situation where the basketball actually comes back to you, people can go one-on-one or just play as a person individually in this sort of concept. How did the idea of going to squash courts and a return basketball sort of come about?
Yeah, really the problem that we're looking to solve was how you can access a space to get more practice in and more shots up for a basketball athlete. So adding the technology through the Dr. Dish ball return machine actually allows our members and the users of these spaces to actually track all their data. So if I was to go and jump on a court somewhere, anywhere in Australia by myself, I might get up maybe 100 or 150 shots in 30 minutes. Through our spaces, a player can actually get up around 500 shots, and the technology actually captures all that data and stores it. So you can look at beating your scores. There's pre-programmable workouts, through the software. So it's really a high-tech space. And the way I look at it, it's like a very, very significant upgrade on the driveway or the backyard basketball system, where it might be a flat old rubber ball that you're shooting. This is amazing space. As I mentioned, it looks really good. We've branded it up. All the walls are covered in purple. There's neon lights in there, Mark. A stereo system, so you can put your favourite tracks on. So it's almost that gamification of the sport. So our members are using it. We're seeing them tracking their data, and when we open up our new space right in the middle of Hobart in a couple of months' time, that'll go next level. We'll have 5 more of those spaces in there, and a whole range of other basketball activations, which is very exciting.
Were you surprised, Mark? I mean, COVID was tough for a lot of people, and in every state in Australia and the world. Were you surprised at the amount of take-up there was with something, a concept like this, like Swisherr Hoops, about people or young people or older people? Because it's for all ages, I suppose, and people that love the game. Were you surprised at the uptake of people wanting to get involved with the game of basketball, even if it was a one-on-one or by themselves idea?
Yeah, we're really confident that the demand for more was there in Greater Hobart, and that's really where we've set up, and the plans to roll across the other regions of Tasmania down the track, but really wanted to test the functionality and the software in our local market. So we were always confident, and we have elite players coming through the junior pathways that gives them opportunities to get in additional training sessions. So really what we're doing is adding value to the current basketball offering. So there's elite juniors, there's senior players, sort of in their 20s, 30s, 40s that might play C grade on a Monday or Thursday night. They just love the game, want to get in there, really enjoy the concept of being able to track your progress and seeing if you can improve. And if you can get a 10 percentage points increase on, say, your 3-point shooting, that's a huge difference in basketball. So we've been absolutely thrilled. There's been families that have memberships, and it really operates like the 24-hour fitness model. So it's full keyless entry to our sites. Our members pay a monthly subscription, and then they can use that facility. It's all booked online. So it is a high-tech space that we're operating in, and we'll continue to evolve and introduce new technologies over coming months.
You've got an app, yeah? There's an app that's attached to it?
It's a web-based platform, but future plans are that we will most likely have an app, but at the moment it's a web-based system that you can just add it on the home screen of your smartphone. So very much looks and feels like an app would, but it's been highly effective. It's been, our user experience has been great just from the feedback from our members. But what's been really interesting, Mark, is just the uptake, and I have access to the calendar. So almost every 30 minutes, which is the time slots our members can book, there's a new notification comes up on my phone that someone else is going into one of our shot labs as their name. So yeah, the uptake's been amazing, and we're really confident that once we open up our city site, it's really going to grow to a next level.
So in football, in my world, in my sport, we have video analysts where the players play. They've broken down into tapes or video they can watch. Well, is there a chance, or does it happen, where players can look at their game, their shooting techniques, where they could use as a coaching tool as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of different parts to that where you can actually just track the pure shooting data, which might say Mark Nash went in and had 200 3-point attempts and made 83 of those, so I'll get a percentage, and then I can store that in my profile. There's also the opportunity through using other pre-existing apps, so say like a Home Court, which is a global brand, which can actually track the trajectory of your shot. So if you can imagine trying to shoot like Steph Curry in the NBA, that it's almost shooting on like a 45-degree arc. That system can actually track Mark Nash on the street that's come in, and I can look at comparing my shot there. So there's some really great existing technology, and again, over the next period of time, we'll look at what we might be able to create in-house or tap into other existing platforms to really level up those analytics for our members, but also for coaches who can prescribe programs to young players or elite level players. So it's a great coaching tool, but for an athlete, it's just fantastic to be able to track your data and be able to have those numbers which are really measurable. And as we say in all sports, Mark, the numbers don't lie. So just being able to track that data is brilliant.
Now, this morning, big announcement was made with the Hoops Academy and Swisherr Hoops Academy on a very special location, Hobart. Tell the viewers about what happened this morning and what it's all about.
Yeah, well, look, over the last couple of months, there was an article in the newspaper down here about our partnership with the University of Tasmania, which we're still working through. Very exciting though for us as a small local Tasmanian business that has big ambition to be partnering with the biggest education provider in Tasmania, the University of Tasmania. So there'll be a lot more to come about that partnership and all the different components to that. But we're thrilled to be able to really sort of level up the basketball program within the university. And this facility, even though it's likely to be temporary for the next number of years before the university uses that for other purposes, really gives basketball an opportunity to have extra places to play and train and work out. And we really think from social level players to juniors that have just come into the sport, right through to elite level players who might be wanting to go to US colleges or play nationally. We'll be able to have all of those programs under the one roof right in the middle of Hobart, Mark. So next time you're down, we'll most likely have the doors open. So I can't wait to welcome you in and give you a tour of the facility.
You've got a connection with the Hobart Chargers and some work you're doing with them and, in some programs. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we do. Again, for us being that local Tasmanian business, a big part of our mission is to be able to support local basketball. So we're actually now a sponsor of the Hobart Chargers, which we announced only very recently. So we'll be providing some services to all the Chargers players. And in one of my other basketball hats, Mark, I'm the head coach of the Chargers women's program. So again, we provide opportunities for local Tasmanian athletes to play in a national competition, which is just excellent. Our season starts in mid-April, so it's very much a countdown there to get players into town and healthy. And this morning we announced Maddie Garrick, who's joining the team. So Maddie's a superstar of Australian basketball. Most recently, he's played with the Melbourne Boomers in the WNBL. She's an absolute elite level player at our level in the NBL 1 level, and is also part of the Australian 3x3 team. So Maddie's sort of in the final selection process for the Aussie team. There's a qualifying tournament in Austria in May, and there's 20 teams going to that tournament. 3 of those teams will snare the last 3 spots for the Tokyo Olympics, Mark. So just great for us to have a player of Maddie Garrick's calibre coming in, and I'm really excited just to work with Maddie on the court, but to see the influence she can have here in our local basketball community. She's from regional Victoria, so a great story there about you can achieve your dreams, and here's hoping that Maddie Garrick will be an Olympian in a couple of months' time.
Now, the Swisherr Hoops Academy is the organisation, the business you're involved with, and you talked about Hobart and the University of Tasmania. Is there plans to expand onto the mainland with this program? Because it sounds, as you spoke about earlier, about individuals trying to hone their shooting skills, and it's in squash courts. Which when you first told me that, I thought how fantastic, how smart that is. Squash courts in Melbourne, obviously around Australia, are, the game of squash is diminishing a bit. We don't want to lose that sport, but if there's squash courts around that can be utilised, or it's a good concept, works well, is there plans to expand the game or the concept in the mainland?
Yeah, when we built our first shot lab, the thinking was, like, let's develop something that's scalable and replicable really anywhere in the country. And as we know that most community sports facilities right across the country, Mark, usually will have a number of squash courts. Now, we know there's been a decline in squash, and certainly we're not critical of squash as a sport, but we're also looking at, well, if there's those types of spaces in facilities that might be connected to a a couple of basketball courts that are being used as a glorified broom closet or storage area. It's definitely an opportunity for us to be able to convert those into a fantastic high-tech space for basketball. So really, the answer to your question, Mark, is the opportunity is there. We're testing all of the technology in southern Tasmania. The plan would then be to roll across northern and northwest Tasmania. But all the indications are that extremely well received by our members. So there's every opportunity that we could look at further expansion in due course.
It's fantastic. If someone's watching the show and they talk about they're a basketball fan, or they like playing a bit of one-on-one, or shooting hoops as they come in the driveway, as you said, I've seen a lot of hoops around Australia where they're attached to light poles and garages. What's the website address and how can they get involved?
Yeah, so our website is swisherr.com, so 2 R's on Swisherr. So I'd really encourage anyone to jump on it and probably follow our journey over the next couple of months. Also on our social media pages through Instagram and Facebook. If you search up Swisherr Hoops Academy, you'll be able to follow along that journey. So we'll be documenting our fit out of this major space right in downtown Hobart, Mark. And yeah, real good opportunity for people to share that journey with us. And over the next couple of months, we'll have more information about that site. But yeah, a lot of people are interested right across the country and even further afield. So we're just delighted with how well it's been received so far, and we're very excited to keep talking to our members to understand what they're really looking to achieve out of their basketball training, and just continuing to adapt and evolve and grow this initiative, which has been just a great fun journey so far.
Now, we'll go into that's Swisherr.com and with 2 R's. Don't forget the 2 R's at the end there, but have a check it out on the social media. And knowing Mark, now Mark's had 3 children, Caleb, Holly, and what's the other name?
Jasmine's our youngest.
So
yep.
They're 17, 15 and 12, Mark. Now, do they carry your height and they at basketball level?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Mark, I'm 6'6" in the old scale, so about 198 centimetres. And look, all our kids are tall. They're not quite looking me in the eye just yet, but who knows, maybe a late growth spurt. But look, all really love the game, and that's been a big part of this as well. Just initially, that's how the concept started, with talking with the kids and not being able to get on courts and access to courts. So just to see them and their mates, really getting around this. And for a lot of young people involved in sport, you can look at the professional sport as being the only real option as far as a pathway. But again, through working with local clubs, working with the university, working with great clubs like the Hobart Chargers that provide opportunities to play in national leagues, there's so many amazing opportunities for young people. And it might not be as a player athlete, it might be as a coach or an official. Really exciting around the data analysis side of things, which could lead into a career in, say, the AFL as an analyst or any other sport. So really what we're trying to do is drive people's love for the game, and wherever that takes them, be able to provide a support and a really clear pathway. But tying in with educational outcomes and trying to develop with these athletes really clear pathways into their future careers off the court is all part of that for us. And it's just great to see young people at 15, 16, 17 really thinking through it and saying, well, okay, I thought my basketball pathway may have stopped after under 18s if I wasn't good enough to play senior basketball, but now they can see that there's a whole range of opportunities. Global sport, 213 countries, 400 million people. I heard yesterday, Mark, that there are 500 million basketball fans in China alone. So when you talk about sports marketing and the opportunities there for sports businesses in a market like China, we know that India is growing as a basketball country as well. So you don't just have to be a player. And, I think our sport's going to continue to grow. Down here in Tasmania, we'd love to see more people bouncing basketballs than kicking balls. And I think that's a realistic goal. And I love Aussie rules and cricket and the more traditional Tassie sports. But, basketball's on the rise. We've got the Tasmania Jack Jumpers coming in the NBL, National Basketball League. And we'd also love to see a women's team competing in the Women's National Basketball League in coming years. So, yeah, really exciting times for basketball as a world game.
The participation level, and that's something you and I spoke about when I was down there a couple of weeks ago. The participation level in basketball is growing all the time, and it is an alternative sport because cricket and football are your traditional sports. So the participation rates are growing, Mark, all the time?
They are, and basketball is a really attractive sport for families. First of all, being indoors in Tasmania is a great plus. I'm a new netball parent this year, Mark. So sitting out at Creek Road, even in autumn, it was pretty chilly and a good gust of wind. So basketball is a great sport. You can play it year round. The format is usually for juniors 60 minutes to 90 minutes for a game, and then you're out of the stadium on a Saturday or a Sunday. So it's a sport for everyone. Boys, girls. There's great pathways, and basketball participation growth has been really growing at an exponential rate the last 5 years, and we really expect that to continue. The only thing holding the sport back, like a lot of codes, is facilities. So we need more indoor stadiums, opportunities for and spaces for people to play, and that's a big part of what we do at Swisherr. We're not a conventional recreation centre. We're a basketball centre. We've got rubber synthetic courting that we put down. There's music going. There's the technology side of it. So we're really, again, as I mentioned earlier, growing a love of the game for people young and old, and it's just been extremely well received.
Hey, I'll go back just a couple of last ones before I let you go, Mark. Is about you started in the NBL in 1994 to 2007. What's obviously data's been a big integral change in the game and statistics. Is that what the biggest? How have you seen the game change since '94 to today?
Yeah, and I've been out of the NBL for 13 years, as long as I was in it, but I certainly watched probably 5 or 6 games a week, and I can see the use of technology and analytics there. And when I was playing, we certainly had a scout on the opposition, but that would usually be the assistant coach would get 2 VHS videos, or I think we might have just evolved DVDs, Mark, and we'll try and sort of cut up a bit of a package, which we'd then have on our portable DVD players that we all had back in the day that we'd look on planes. But now, just with the video editing software, most teams now are filming training sessions, so they can stop training, go to the big screen on the sideline, have a look at a particular possession and break it down for 30 seconds, jump straight back into it. Players can leave the game with their smartphones or tablets with clips and packages on that content that's relevant for them. So the analytics side of the game is really gone next level. And even at my level at NBL 1 with the Hobart Chargers, analytics, advanced scouting is a huge part of what we do. We don't have the resources of the big pro clubs, but sport at those levels now, having the analytics, going in prepared to a game, knowing your scout, and then being able to execute that is really, really important, and something I love as a coach as well. It certainly keeps you on your toes. You've got to be across all of that, and sometimes those little details can make a big difference.
Nash, one last one from me. I'm just curious. Just something come to mind. In footy, always about your opposition, who you're playing, the key players, key plays that they have. How does the basketball go with? Is it about DVD, video, as far, or not DVD, but video, and is it about having an opposition person go to the opposition game, or is that how that works in basketball? Is that how it works?
Yeah, look, in our league, again, the NBL 1 level league, so 2 Tasmanian teams. We play in the NBL 1 South League, which is across Tasmania and Victoria. All of our games are live streamed. As coaches, we have access to all of those games in the huddle system. So we can actually go in there, and then we can edit games. We can watch games in full. I can put clips together. For example, we're playing Launceston in the first game of the season, so we won't have game film available, but our week 2 opponent is Ballarat. So let's say they play 2 games round 1. I could access those 2 games. I could cut them up into small 2, 3, 5 minute clips to send it to various players, and then I could share that either via email or through WhatsApp or Messenger, any of the platforms that we use for team communication. So even at our level, we don't have the real high-end software that the NBA would use and our NBL teams, which can actually cut up those games a lot quicker. For me, it's still quite a manual process, and I'm pretty slow with it. But we still have access to the same concept, where there might be a key player that we need to look at where they get their shots from, or where they're hurting opposition teams from. We might look at some of our areas, things that we've done well, but also areas that we need to develop. So look, it's great. You could spend 100 hours a week on it, Mark, and sometimes you can overanalyze at our level. But we like to give the players a few key points, both at the offensive end and the defensive end, to make sure there's no surprises when we go into a game. on a Friday or a Saturday. So it's all part of the game now. Very different than when I started playing, where you would have a pre-game chat in the change room before the game, hands in, and then we'd go and play, and best team wins. So yeah, analytics are a big part of what we do.
Well, I've been speaking to Mark Nash, who is with the Swisherr Hoops Academy. That's R, swisher.com. And this is episode 4 of Stoney's Piece for A1 TV. Mark, thanks very much for joining me on the show today. I'm going to be following pretty closely, and I'm a Hobart lover. I love being in Tasmania. It's a great part of the world. And I'm sure that the people looking at this will have a look at swisher.com and have a look at all the social media bits and pieces around the new concept. And I think it's fabulous. When I spoke to you recently, I thought, what a great idea to bring something that, and how it's funny how things can come out of COVID when you haven't got a lot of time on your hands. What am I going to do? How am I going to entertain myself? How are the kids going to be entertained? Great concept. Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks a lot, Mark. Great to catch up as always. And here's hoping we might catch up with you maybe on a road trip game in Melbourne. Come along and support the mighty Hobart Chargers.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark.